Welcome back to Buzzworthy Businesses, where we highlight leaders who are making a big impact, both locally and worldwide. I'm Morgan Yonge, and I'm joined by Lee White with LM White Consulting. Lee, thank you so much for being here with us.
Oh, thanks for having me today.
Yes, so the trucking industry, and not just the trucking industry, but the automated trucking industry.
That's right.
Tell me about it. How did you get involved? How'd you get started?
Yeah, so I've been in trucking 42 years. My first 35 years I was with UPS. And for the last 5 years of my career with UPS, I looked at new technologies. And one of those was autonomous trucking. So when I left UPS, I went to work as Vice President of Strategy for an AV developer. Left them about 3 years ago and started my own consulting company. And really what drove that is I wanted to move the whole industry forward. I believed it was going to have a big impact on safety. And instead of just working with one, I wanted to work with fleets and what they needed to do to adopt, integrate, and scale, as well as with some of the AV developers and help make sure that they built the business models the right way so that the fleets would be able to easily adopt them.
Fantastic. And tell me about, this has been a very big change in the last few years. Will you tell me about how the trucking industry has been impacted in these last few years?
Yeah, the last 3 years have been just absolutely brutal. We've been in a trucking recession. 5 years ago when I was on the other side of it, fleets were coming. If they had 100 trucks in their fleet, they had orders for 120 loads to move on that day. Now, if they had 100 trucks, they may have 80 or 75 loads to move. We really are compressing as far as the volume levels. So it's really forced trucking companies to look at ways to save money, to work safer, to improve maintenance costs and insurance costs and everything that they can do. And I think what we're seeing now is this AV is going to be real. We're going to launch this month with a driver out of the vehicle in Texas, and it's going to begin to impact and move across in different markets as it happens.
How do you see that affecting logistics across the country?
Yeah, so, one of the questions I always get, what's going to happen to the drivers, right? Are they going to lose their jobs? And I tell people, absolutely not. I think, I'm going to date myself, right? When I first got into trucking in the 80s, truckers were very worried about losing their jobs to these trains, that everything we're moving cross country is going to go to the trains. And now if you look at that, it's called intermodal, and it's multi-channel. It's truck drivers that bring loads to the rails and then take them to customers. And those intermodal jobs are some of the most desired. They've got the best hours. They've got the best work-life balance where the drivers can have a life outside of just work. Where back in the 80s, if you were home 2 nights a month, you were doing really good. So very different business. And I think one of the challenges, in the past 42 years, trucking moves very, very slowly. It's about de-risking and how do you take risk out of it. And I think the next 5 years, we're going to see more disruption, more change than what I've seen in the 42 years that I've been in the business.
But positive disruption.
Totally. I think we have to, right? Trucking runs basically, there's 3 main categories that drive trucking. One is the consumer purchases, what you buy on Amazon, the e-commerce players.
Oh, I spend enough on Amazon.
You do that.
I'm definitely helping.
Well, thank you. Let's get that growing. And that's what did grow during the pandemic. We experienced 5, 7, 8 years worth of growth in that 1 year during the pandemic, because that's where all the spending went. The 2 other areas are manufacturing and then construction. If you look at the cranes and new housing, really a tough market right now. We're not seeing new housing. We're not seeing a lot of manufacturing. So the foundation of what drives trucking hasn't been there for the last 3 years. So it's put more pressure on trucking companies. How do you cut costs? How do you lower things? So I think the timing of bringing AV in is perfect for that, right? And how do we use that as a force multiplier to really take care of the drivers, because they're integral, right? And for a lot of fleets, what their niche is how they take care of their customers. They still want that touch point with the drivers when they pick up their load and they deliver their load. But they're not really focused on who drives it from Jacksonville to Dallas. They don't really see that or care about that. That's what AV can do for these companies. So if these fleets begin to see that, they understand that, now they've got to look at it with, is my network optimized? Is it really ready for the adoption and integration of AV? Because I think we're at that case where somebody doesn't have to make an investment in a lot more trucks or hire 30 more drivers in order to expand into that network. The AV network can do that, and they can focus on what they're good at, which is taking care of their customers, doing the final delivery and the pickups. So that's what I see happening in the trucking industry that gives us a better chance to make things better, and most importantly, improve safety.
Fantastic. And what are the most important things that you like to focus on in your consulting?
Yeah, so when a fleet looks at it like that, I take a look at what is their network. Where are they making their pickups, where they're making their deliveries. People think, oh, it's just going to be like a switch that flips, and that's not how it's going to happen, right? So what do you need to do now to start reviewing some of your contracts, looking at what times you can deliver, what time can you pick up, because it's more about optimizing. Right now, with the hours of service limitation and what happens with drivers, they move to different locations and they can balance the work and they can get into position to pull it and drive a few miles. Where really the winners are going to be the ones that can optimize their network and really build the density that they need to for their delivery and pickup networks to multiply and do a force multiplication, if you will, on the assets that they do have in the area. So it's leadership and it's thinking and it's understanding, and it's beginning to have the discussions now so that as that AV territory expands, you're ready.
And what an amazing opportunity for you to be out ahead of the market and of really the times that are changing.
Yeah, that's what I'm enjoying, because it's really an opportunity for me to sit on the front row and to help fleets and help some of the AV companies get ready for that, because it's what we need. We talk about this administration and what's trying to happen. We have to bring back manufacturing, but we have to be economical in how we do it. AV trucking is a great opportunity to improve that and do it in a way that's safe, right? One of the dirty secrets in trucking is we lose about 5,000 people a year in fatal truck accidents. My grandchildren live in Texas, right on a lane that's going to be an autonomous trucking lane that gets deployed first. And I tell people with all confidence, I would much rather them be in a car next to an autonomously driven truck than a manually driven truck. That's how much confidence I have in the AV trucking and how safe it is, because it's constantly looking and perceiving the world around it.
Fantastic.
Exciting times.
Very exciting. Well, trucks are not flying just yet, but they are driving themselves here pretty soon, now already.
Absolutely,
they're out there.
Morgan. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, of course. And you guys, viewers, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Buzzworthy Businesses. If you want more information about Lee White, head on over to dailynewsnetwork.com. We have it all right there. We'll see you in the next episode of Buzzworthy Businesses.